Welcome to Tito CEDH Gameplay. So today we'll be joined by our favorite uncles, Tito Dino piloting his signature Urza Lord High Artificer. We are also joined by Ian, who's piloting his partner commander Thrasios and Bruse. Also bringing up the rear, Tito Christian, who's piloting Kinnan, Bonder Prodigy, and myself piloting my Tasigur Golden Fang Reanimator. Alright, let's get into the gameplay. Dino starts us off. He's playing Urza Lord High Artificer, and his opening hand is a Wasteland, a Miko Koro, Norset's Reversal, Isochron Scepter, Static Orb, Tribute Mage, and a Mana Crypt. He's followed by Ian playing his partner commander, Thrasios Triton Hero, and Bruse Tari, Boorish Herder. His opening hand is a Temple Garden, Llanowar Elf, Polluted Delta, Force of Vigor, Eternal Witness, Carpet of Flowers, and a Shivan Rift. Closely followed by Christian. He's playing his Kinnan, Bonder Prodigy as commander. He mulliganed down to 6 cards, and his opening hand is a Mana Confluence, Windswept Heath, Birds of Paradise, Lightning Greaves, Veil of Summer, and Thrasios, Triton Hero. And finally, I'm bringing up the rear using my Tasigur the Golden Fang, and my opening hand is a Tarnished Citadel, River of Tears, Talisman of Dominance, Kinnan Bonder Prodigy, Brainstorm, a Norset's Reversal, and a Windfall. There you have it. The strategies of each deck will be discussed as it progresses, and the combos thereof. Alright, let's start turn 1. Dino draws a card for the turn, plays Miko Koro as a land drop, casts Mox Diamond, pitching Wasteland. He deliberates, thinks about it a little bit. However, this is still a strong opening from Dino. He slams his Mana Crypt, and then he follows it up by casting his Tribute Mage. He's pondering that he wanted to cast Urza Lord High Artificer, but doesn't have the required island. So he instead went with the Tribute Mage, and he's now searching for an artifact, potentially to help him cast Urza next turn. Now that he showed he doesn't have a blue source, he searched for Arcane Signet, shuffles his deck, thinks about it real quick, passes the turn. It's now Ian's turn. He draws a card for the turn, plays Temple Garden Shock, and casts Llanowar Elf, passing the turn. Christian draws a card for the turn. He now looks at his cards, thinks about it, plays a Mana Confluence, pings himself for 1 to cast his Birds of Paradise, passing the turn. I draw a card for turn, play a River of Tears, and with nothing else, passes the turn. Dino draws a card for the turn, and taps first, rolls for a Mana Crypt. He's thinking about whether or not to go odd or even. He went with odd, damage himself. Nice. Taps the Mana Crypt to cast Arcane Signet, thinks about it a little bit, and then swings his Tribute Mage to Christian, dealing 2 damage. Christian doesn't have a blocker, won't block his birds, takes the 2 damage, and then Dino passes the turn. Ian taps and draws a card for the turn. He then plays Polluted Delta as his land drop, deliberates a little bit, sacrifices Polluted Delta, dealing himself 1 damage, and then searching his library for a land card. Shocks in a Breeding Pool, dealing an additional 2 damage to him. He then taps the 2 lands to cast his commander, one of his commander, Thrasios, Triton Hero, ask if it should respond or anybody would respond, and it comes into play, then passes the turn. Christian taps, draws a card for the turn, plays a Windswept Heath for the turn, searching for a tropical island, pings himself for the fetch, and then he casts his commander, Kinnan, Bonder Prodigy, ask if it's going to resolve. Everybody concurs that it resolves, and he taps birds for 2 mana and casts Lightning Greaves. With everybody's dismay, Lightning Greaves resolves, and he's eager to attach it to Kinnan. He now attached the Lightning Greaves to Kinnan, preventing it to be draked. He then swings to Dino, retaliating that 2 damage back And now it's my turn. I brainstorm. Draw 3 cards. Return 2. Draw a card for the turn. Place a Tarnished Citadel and cast my Arcane Signet. With most of the ramping done, I have the most underwhelming board state. I cast Sensei's Dividing Top and passes the turn. At the end of my turn, Dino activates Mikokoro. Everybody draws a card and thanks Dino. He then untaps, pontificates on what to choose for mana crypts. He chose Odd again and damages himself again. Nice one. Thanks, Mana Crypt. He draws a card for the turn. Finally plays an island. Thinks about it. Thinking if this is the time for him to go for his combo. He taps the Mana Crypt to cast Isochron Scepter. The table has a mild heart attack. And everybody's checking for a counterspell. Ian passes. Christian passes. And I'm thinking to either respond with my Sensei's Dividing Top. But chose not to. Because Ian pontificated or postulated that he has something when the imprint is triggered. Dino says imprint on the stack. While that is happening, Ian then intercedes with his Force of Vigor, targeting the scepter and the Arcane Signet, pitching a green card. Dino is now pondering whether or not to respond to the Force of Vigor. Dino taps double blue and casts Narset's Reversal, targeting the Force of Vigor, hoping that Ian doesn't have another green card in hand. Everybody lets Narset Reversal resolve, bouncing back the Force of Vigor to Ian's hand. And now Dino chooses new targets, targeting my Arcane Signet and Christian's Lightning Greaves. Both of us agreed. Both of those artifacts are now destroyed. And now Imprint is back on the stack. Ian recasts his Force of Vigor, pitching another green card, targeting the same artifacts, Isochron and the Arcane Signet. Isochron is destroyed alongside its Arcane Signet. Now that that's done, Dino attacks Ian for Retribution. Ian blocks with his Triton Hero. Nothing happens. And now it's Ian's turn. Ian untaps, draws a card for the turn, then plays Shivan Riff, and then passes the turn. Now it's Christian's turn. He untaps, draws a card for the turn, then plays an Ancient Tomb, looks at the board, with everybody else having a creature and only me that don't have a blocker. He attacks me with Kinnan. He taps the bird for 2 mana and casts Thrasios, then passes the turn to me. I untap, draw a card for the turn. With no lands, I tap both land to cast Thought Vessel, and using the Thought Vessel, I Sensei's Divining Top. Looking at the top 3 cards, and now I pass my turn. It's now Dino's turn. This is now turn 4. He untaps and draws a card for the turn, rolls for his Mana Crypt, and praying to the magic gods. Finally, even. He doesn't take damage from the crypt. Draws a card for the turn. Taps 4 mana. Thinks about it. He's postulating whether or not to cast his Urza, and decided to cast his commander, Urza, Lord High Artificer. Crosses his fingers that it resolves. The team deliberates and resolves. Urza brings a construct with him. It's a 3/3 construct. He then taps it to produce blue to cast Dramatic Reversal, and taps the 3 artifacts. Then taps 3 to cast Static Orb. Everybody shakes their heads, tries to think if there is a way out or a counterspell to resolve. Everybody says it's okay. And with only me without a blocker, Dino thought about swinging with his Tribute Mage to me. I take that damage. Then Dino passes his turn. At the end of turn, Ian taps his mana to cast Chain of Vapor, targeting Dino's Urza, Lord High Artificer. Dino is now contemplating. Bargaining ensues. He's deliberating whether or not to tap the Static Orb and to copy Chain of Vapor. Dino responds by tapping the Static Orb and sacrificing Mikokoro to copy Chain of Vapor. He targets Ian's Thrasios, Triton Hero. Copy resolves. Vapor resolves. Urza is now bounced. But Static Orb is tapped. Now it's Ian's turn. Ian untaps. Draws a card for the turn. He recasts his Thrasios, playing an island. He then casts Training Grounds, trying to start that value train. And then he passes the turn. At the end of turn, Christian takes 2 damage and floats 2 mana from the Ancient Tomb. He sacrifices it using Crop Rotation, searching his library for a Gaia's Cradle. He now used the mana floated from the Ancient Tomb, tapping Gaia's Cradle to activate Thrasios. He now has 1 green remaining. Looks at the top card, deliberates a little bit, scries it on top, shows it to us, and it's Tezzeret the Seeker. Oh no. And now he puts it into his hand. Yikes. With Static Orb tapped, Christian can now untap his permanents, draws a card for the turn. He taps the Cradle for 5 and taps the bird for double blue, casts Tezzeret the Seeker. And with me tapped out, Dino tapped out, it's now up to Ian to save the day. Everybody's panicking on the board, and however, Tezzeret still resolves. Unfortunately, with the initial counter wars, there's no more counter spells on the field. He now activates Tezzeret to search for his Basalt Monolith, showing his infinite combo. Basalt Monolith taps for 3 mana and taps itself for 3. So because they have Kinnan, Bonder Prodigy, what happens here is that you net 1 mana, and because Triton Hero is on the field, you can activate Triton Hero for 4 and he can draw his library. And from there, he can either choose to kill everyone using his Walking Ballista or casts his artifact in order for him to target everyone with his Blue Sun Zenith. And from there, Christian patiently won this round. There you have it, guys. An awesome gameplay. It pays to be patient. Now, Bonder Prodigy or Christian's commander has won those series 3 more times. I don't think that would be better to show you guys, but the deck is very consistent and linear. So if you're new and you want to pick up something fun and very consistent for CEDH, please consider this deck. The deck list is on the description down below. Alright, that being said, if you like my CEDH content, please consider the playlist. Alright, that's it. As always, stay safe.